Keith Myers here. Wanted to talk about the infighter's crouch because this is the other thing that separates that outfighting range from the infighting range and makes it clear that there's a distinction and that it's an area that deserves to be developed. If you're doing Jeet Kune Do and you're doing mostly outfighting range, then you're up on your toes. You need that light, evasive footwork. You're moving around. You're in a slightly bladed stance, right? You're moving around. There's head movement involved, obviously, but it's that fast, evasive footwork, right? You're kind of up on your toes. Well, things change when you get in closer. I think I've talked about before, if I'm at a distance and I'm usually using primarily my lead arm, lead leg, then I'm more bladed because this is what's doing all the work. But as I get closer, I want to use my rear hand. I have to get a little more square so that I can punch with my rear hand. If I get even closer, I want to be able to use both hands equally, so I'm ended up being more square. So when I'm in that infighting range, I go from a bladed position to almost a square position. One foot might be slightly in front of the other, just depending, but still my hips and shoulders are more or less square to the opponent, right? And so if I'm going to be that close to somebody, we want to use a crouch where we drop straight down. So now, instead of being light and floating with my footwork, now I want to sink and I'm rooted, right? So I can move and sink my weight. And I don't want to stick my butt out. I want to go straight down where I'm here. One foot can be in front, but it doesn't really matter which foot it is, right? Because I'm moving either direction. So you've got to be ambidextrous. There's no such thing as a right lead or a left lead when you get in this infighting range. And you want to be in a crouch so I take my head out of range of his punches. That's one of the problems with compound trapping, is if I'm trapping with this guy, I'm usually standing straight up, right? I'm trapping. My head is straight up. I'm not moving around because I'm worried about trapping. Well, if this is one of those guys that does this kind of thing, instead of giving you a classic Jeet Kune Do or Wing Chun response, where he stands there nice and upright and does this for you so you can grab his arms and trap, what if he does this kind of shit? Well, then you could possibly be in deep trouble, right? You're standing there upright, doing all your trapping, and he does. Your head is right there. So that's the advantage of an infighter's crouch, is it takes me down out of that line of fire where I'm covered. It puts me in a position where I can fire off myself. So in this crouch, I'm not trying to look at his face. I'm looking right in the middle of his chest. I don't have to see his head, because unless he can take his head off and shift it, I know where his head is at. I can tell by his shoulders and his chest. So I can still target the head without looking up. So I'm keeping my chin down and tucked. So I'm less of a target. But I can still know where I'm hitting without having to look him in the face. Okay? And of course there's a whole psychological part of that where by not looking in his eyes, he can't psych me out, I can't get afraid, that kind of thing. I'm looking in the center of his chest and I'm moving around. And I can still target his head. Because again, I know where his head's going to be. Right? The other advantage of this infighter crouch is my hands are up. I kind of talked about the guard position, whether I'm here with gloves on or where I'm moving like this, my hands are up. So if he's coming around the side, I can cover, I can duck and weave, I can do different things. I'm too close for him to throw much of a straight punch, right? I'm not at arm's length. I'm inside his arm's reach, so I can move, right? So the big danger then is an uppercut, because if I'm standing like this, you know, I'm relatively open right up the center, and that's where he can come through. I got to be cautious of an uppercut. But that's why our arms are in motion, and I'm not going to stand right in front of the guy. When I'm in this infighting position, I want to be over here or over here. So I'm not right in front of him where he can just throw an uppercut up the middle, right? So that crouch gives you a lot of protection when you have to be this close to the guy. So from an infighter's perspective, if I'm out here and he's punching at me, instead of doing a snap back or a fadeaway where my head is staying up, right? This works great. If you're timing it and you're just outside his reach, you can snap back and then come in. That works great. The equivalent of that when I get inside is I'm close enough, I'm not going to be able to get outside of his reach. So what's the equivalent? I want to get inside of his reach. Both cases, I'm not at the end of that punch. Either I get out so he can't reach me, or I'm here, I get in so that he goes to punch, it goes over me and past me. So it's the same concept, right, as a snapback, more of a snap in. If I drop into that crouch where his punch goes over my shoulder or over my head, I'm here, and then from this position, that crouch loads your hips and gives you all that power that comes from that, right? That ability to load, and I'm shift to this side, loaded, and then I'm behind him, right? And that's all because I'm in this crouch where my hips are loaded and I can move different directions. I can do different things. So it's a rooted footwork compared to on the balls of your feet, floating, light, fast footwork, okay? So again, it's kind of a different beast that you do need to put in time training. It's not complicated, it's not hard, it's just different. And so I think it's an aspect of Jeet Kune Do that maybe in the past hasn't been very well developed. So work on that, think about that, going from this kind of a guard, so I get closer to the opponent, I'm going to be dropping, covering, I'm going to be in a crouch, right, where I can move and step and do different things from here. In fighters, crouch is important. Right?